Why is she drawing birds? Maybe a question. Maybe not. I often find all sorts of interesting messages from God when I'm reading about like nerdy science things. And one thing that scientists have fairly recently discovered, or fairly recently accepted, might be a better way to put it, is that the number of colors in the spectrum that we can see is limited compared to the number of colors in the spectrum that birds can see. And so you may remember from science class that we have rods and cones in our eyes, and the cones are what allow us to see color. And our long, medium, and short cones correspond to, I'm going to get nerdy for a second. I'll come back to these birds, I really promise. The long, medium, and short cones are what allows us to see. The long one is red, and the medium is sort of into the blue, or sorry, red, yellow, blue, yes. Medium's the yellow, and then the short one is the blue. And birds have another one so that they can see ultraviolet, that part past purple that we can't see because our eyes just can't process that color. And so everybody thinks, I assume, that when we look at a crow, we are seeing what color it is. Crows are black, so are ravens and grackles and other black birds. But it turns out that when the birds see each other, they are all sorts of iridescent, bright, ridiculous, flamboyant purples and like ultra purples in colors that we can't even see. And so when they look at each other, you know, thinking about mating and all that stuff, they're hot to trot, like a toucan would be. But all we can see is black, because we can't see ultraviolet. It's kind of interesting that to convince myself that blackbirds are not black takes quite a bit of mental effort. When scientists were studying what animals could see what colors, they, at first, of course, we base everything on ourselves, right? Everybody must see like us, and if they can't see like us, maybe they can see a little worse, like dogs can't see color. Turns out dogs can see color, they can just only see blues and yellows, nothing in the red and off into the purple. So if your dog's toy is the blue one, that's his favorite, that's why. And similarly, like elephants can see mostly in the yellow and green areas, which makes sense since that's what they eat, is yellow and green things. But when they discovered that mice could see into the ultraviolet, even though we can't, scientists were like, well, we didn't think any mammals could do this, but I guess maybe just small mammals can see ultraviolet, but it must be unusual and weird. And then they tested bigger mammals, and it turns out that we are the weird ones, because most animals can see into the ultraviolet and into the ultra-red like spectrum, way beyond what we can see. And because of how like math and physics works, it's not just that there's two more colors on either end of the spectrum, it's that there's a multiplying effect of like sort of a 3D color, thick colors that we can't imagine, that our brains would never be able to name or even like think about, because we've never seen these tens of thousands of colors that their eyes see every day. And so as I was thinking about the theme for this little chapel, I thought of the verse that's like, God can do more than we can even ask or imagine. And I thought I generally ask and imagine things that are within my imagination, because that's all I've got, right? And thinking of God can do more than that, like, I think I'm probably thinking of the equivalent of just another shade of blue or purple. instead of a whole spectrum that I've never been able to see before. And finding God, or allowing God to be, because crows are already bright, ridiculously beautiful, flamboyant, iridescent colors, right? It doesn't matter if I accept it or not. That's what color crows are to each other when they look at each other. I like these two little crows because they're like kind of cuddling. They're lovey. They appreciate each other's colors. And I can't see it, but knowing that it's there helps me imagine a little bit more. And so it is with God, who can see way more than we can see, in realms that we can't even imagine, in possibilities that we don't even have words for, or rods or cones or brain cells for. And yet, as human beings expand their knowledge of things big like space and small like atoms and quarks, there's God everywhere, being in places that we didn't think existed before, knowing things that we didn't know, and not basing anything off of our standard. Even though we would love to think that, God is most like us. Certainly God is more like us than like a blackbird, right? Maybe. And yet, with no regard for what we care about in our self-centered universe, God has made all sorts of colors that we can't even see. That's a whole different world. Similarly, there's like bats who do things by sound and echolocation, something that we tend not to. There's all sorts of, like, salmon have the equivalent of taste buds all over their body, so they can taste in the water the direction that food is from. Can you imagine, like, being in a bath of chocolate and you can taste it with every cell of your body? Like, how great would that be, right? But that's the life of a salmon all the time, and we think of taste as just one place, just, sweet, bitter, salt, umami. Umami's my favorite. And somehow, a simple salmon with a brain smaller than a walnut can taste more and more complex than we ever could. Who knows if my brain will ever catch up to just how amazing the world around us is, and just how many places God has, like, hidden amazing beauty and messages. But I'm working on opening up to all of those possibilities. And so that is why I've got a very narrow visual range of what we can see, and this will take shape more. And then the wider world that's beyond what we could ever ask or imagine. Shalom, namaste, peace, salam, shalom, namaste, peace, salam, shalom, namaste. Peace, salam, shalom, namaste. Peace, salam, shalom, namaste. Peace, salam, shalom, namaste. Peace, salam, shalom, namaste.